Well, hello there and welcome to another episode of Back to the Clubs with me, Major K. I'm a DJ, producer and record label owner, and in this series I'm talking to other DJs about their club experiences. What was their best, most memorable club gig like? Which club would be their dream destination? And what is always coming but never arrives? The answer to that is tomorrow. The answers to the other questions are often surprising. Previous guests include Nico Parisi, Insulate and DJ Licious. Today, it's Hasan Ghazi. Before we introduce him, be sure to subscribe to Back to the Clubs in your podcast app. Give the show a raving rating too. It helps more people find the podcast. In your podcast app, you can also find my weekly mix podcast, Flash Forward Presents with Major K. And @officialMajorK is my handle on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter and TikTok. And now, Hasan Ghazi. He's a Canadian with roots in Pakistan, has his own record label, Reckoning Records, and I've played a lot of his tracks in my mix show, Flash Forward Presents with Major K. He traveled the world DJing, even ending up in China for a long time, and was a great guy to talk to. Great stories to be had, I can assure you. For your time reference, this interview was recorded on September 20th, 2023. Enjoy the show! Here we go.
Back to the Clubs with Major K.
So yeah, back to the clubs with none other than Hasan Ghazi all the way. Well, we are in Belgium and you are in
Toronto. Thank you for having me here.
Well, it's great having you all the way from Toronto. So, how is the club life in Toronto generally, or music life in Toronto?
Yeah, for sure. The music life in Toronto has evolved a lot over the last few years. It was very heavy on the trance scene when I got in. Tiesto, Armin van Buuren, and all the legends from back in the days. Then it slowly shifted more towards house. These days, tech house is the dominant flavor in Toronto. I try to shake things up with a little bit of my melodic in there, but that's what's going on. I don't know if you know too much about Toronto. We used to have a mega club here called The Government. It shut down, unfortunately, in 2016. It was around for 25 years. A lot of big artists. Deadmau5 got its launch from there. So, it used to house every weekend about 4,000 to 5,000 people.
Yeah.
So it was a very big club. Yeah. So, when I started partying, that was the place to be. You could go in Friday, come out Sunday, that type of vibe.
Yeah. So all-nighters and all the weekend through, really.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. I guess when you started clubbing yourself, that wasn't the case yet. Was that at an early age that you got the music vibe, or?
No, much earlier. I mean, I got introduced, who's my label manager now, Sid. You might have seen him around. He was always big in the scene, and, hip-hop was the music when I was growing up in Toronto, and if you go even further back, that's when I first started producing music. I was doing hip-hop tracks for my friends. But then, he took me out and opened my eyes, let's say, to one of these clubs. And I was like, what is this amazing music?
Yeah.
I was quite young. I think maybe I fully got it. I mean, I started listening to it when I was in high school. But old trance and stuff like that. And then by the time I was in my early 20s, we'd definitely been...
But earlier on, it was more hip-hop, and why was that?
Yeah, so, I mean, growing up in Toronto, that was the rage in those days. Eminem, Tupac, Biggie, that was a culture. It was very hip-hop orientated. That was it. People just didn't know any better. For us, electronic music was called Euro music, right? So... Yeah, Eurodance. That's what it was. Yeah. And when I started listening to it, people weren't very receptive. They used to kind of look at you like, "Oh, you're weird. Why are you listening to this?" Right? And even the parties we used to go to, I remember it was cool because everybody that came out was just about the music, so they really loved it. It was like a small family.
Yeah. So it has changed a lot over the course of the years. Then, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. But, it's still a really good place. I think the crowd here is still very good. You'll find a good mixture of old people, young people, still people coming in. So a variety of that. So Toronto's pretty good. Montreal's a really good hotbed.
Yeah, we'll dive into those clubs later on in the show. Now, just to get a feel of where you're coming from, at what age were you introduced to music? Was it because of your dad and his record collection, for instance, or your mom had some great stuff to do in music, or she plays an instrument? I don't know.
Yeah, funny that you say that. It was because of my dad, actually. My dad was a musician, is a musician, I guess, retired now, professional. But him and my uncle used to have a band that was called the Avengers too. He used to play the guitar, the piano. My uncle was a drummer, so was basically born into a family of music. Like my eyes open, and we had the piano and stuff. So I used to watch him play, and I was like, "Oh my God, what is this amazing music?" Right? So he taught me how to play by ear, like the piano. Taught me what the chords were. So the really cool thing about him was he actually was a self-taught musician. So he can't read music, but he picks up everything by ear, and he's amazing. So. He's one of those guys. So he taught me, and yeah, he had a great collection. Back in the days, Pink Floyd. I think he introduced me to my first electronic track. It was called "We Are the Robots."
That's the "We Are the Robots" of Kraftwerk, no?
Yes, Kraftwerk, I think.
Yeah. And that kind of inspired you, or it was something.
It did. I mean, it was very cool. What really got me into it though was I learned how to play the piano because we had it in the house, and I started off doing some classical stuff with that, and in grade 10 or 11 in my high school, this was just at the time when MIDI computers were coming out, or MIDI music. So we were quite fortunate that our school got a big funding, and the music teacher invested a ton of money. He got these gigantic the computers and the MIDI keyboards, and I think this was like Cubase for one. And they were like, "Oh, we're going to start this MIDI music course," and I was like, "Oh, this is amazing." So I took it, and that's where my interest really grew. And I was like, "Oh my God, what is this?" And it's very primitive at that time, but I understand, or started to learn how to make music in that way from there. And eventually, from there, my friends were like, "Oh, we want to, rap and all this stuff." So
yeah, so you started with the grooves to be used in hip hop, like we mentioned, and then it evolved to a more like housey stuff.
That's exactly true. Yeah. So from there, my first big departure, I would say, and I still have that track. It was called Impact. I mean, I was messing around with a lot of tracks, but we were very heavily focused. Like trance was big. Like Armin van Buuren was big. Gareth Emery. I'm talking about the old Gareth Emery. I don't know if you remember his old stuff, right? Like he was amazing in those days, and so very housey, trancey type of stuff was coming out. So I really wanted to try and capture that kind of sound. So I was experimenting, and then so I tried going in the trance direction for a while, but I really didn't understand, like the different genres and everything else. And
well, even nowadays there are so many genres and subgenres, and everything is a bit of crossover with each other. So what's in a label anyway? So you mentioned Armin and Tiesto. Are these still heroes of yours because they're still around and they're still performing and still making music? Are those people that you still look up to?
I still look up to them. Do I necessarily listen to their music? Maybe not. I think the genres got quite played out. Tiesto, changed his style, but I mean, I still like his productions and whatnot. But so again, over the times, I think after that I got into house, then tech house, then deep house had a hold over me for a long time. So got into that whole rabbit hole. Then eventually techno. Right, and then so it was all of the varieties and genres and flavors. So I mean, they are still my heroes and legends because they're one of the first pioneers for me to kind of put it globally, make it big. But no, the current inspirations I would say are more. I mean, I draw inspirations from people like Space Motion, Anima. These days, let's see, Solomon was a good one of mine from back in the days. So it's all of that. But really, like you said, when I sit down to create, it's because I think I'm so self-taught. I kind of go with what my gut feeling is saying, and I just mix. I don't really think about the genre. Sometimes it ends up being more on the techno side. Sometimes it comes out to be more housey.
Yeah, and I think that's the fun of producing, that you just let the music dictate where it goes and dictate you where you want to go. It's like you're on a journey, and the journey, it doesn't have a point in the future or in the distance. It's just you just take a path, and then there's a crossroads, and then you take a path to the left and then to the right, and somehow you end up with a brilliant track.
That's it. That's it. It's like one of the other things I've always noticed with when I start producing music. Oh, so I'll fill you in. So for a while, I actually went to China, and that's when I kind of got my big break into the clubbing scene.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I spent about 7 years there, which was interesting. Yeah, that's a whole different story. I actually got one of my first big breaks in China. So like I arrived there, I think in 2014, just because one of my friends was out there working and I needed a change of scenery from Toronto. And then, eventually I went up, I remember, and I was like in Beijing or something. And I was like, hey man, like, I'm a DJ. Can I play at your club? And so they had a very cool after hours club called Lantern.
Uh-huh.
It was like the premier destination, underground, deep, like a bunker, they told me get lost, blah, blah. But I remember before I left, I got so popular there, they actually gave me a ticket, put me in the hotel, flew me for the weekend, kind of thing to come play for them. So that was a good feeling. But no, like the China crowd was cool because, there weren't a lot of foreigners, so I met a lot of people there. Generally, the scene was, again, more darker techno. They were playing some weird, sketchy stuff that I didn't understand too much. But, I tried to bring in my flavor, a little bit more of the melodic stuff. But it was cool. I actually got to play in, like, a lot of big cities, Shanghai, Beijing, Guangzhou, so, like, all the major cities there.
Oh, wow.
Actually got to play twice on top of the Great Wall of China, so... Yes, there used to be a lady who used to run this really amazing special club called the Mansion in Shanghai, and it was really what it was. What she did was she bought a big mansion, and it had a swimming pool outside, and backpacker kids would come, so they would be kind of like the bartender staff. So that three floors, there was a lot of people from Europe coming through here. She would give them a place to stay for free.
Yeah.
They would get to bartend and be working for us. So it was a win-win for them. They got to party. But it became one of those underground icons to be at and DJ. And it brought a lot of big talent there. So it was really cool playing there. But she she started a label. Oh my God, I forget the name of the label now. And I sent them some tracks. They had like a competition going and they're like, hey, send us your music. So they picked my music to be one of them. And that's how I got to, and she was hosting these Great Wall of China parties called Yin Yang Festivals. So it was a 3-day music festival. You go on top and, DJs for 3 days. There's yoga, retreats, all that kind of stuff. So very, very cool experience. So because of that, I got my in, and she said, hey.
Must have been quite the experience over there.
Oh, it was surreal, man. Like, I still remember watching the sunrise on top of the Great Wall of China. And I had a sunrise set one year, and I was just like, this is incredible. Like, I can't believe this, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, so that's one. Yeah, you'll never forget. I think those sets over there, and in that circumstance, and with those people, as you described, it's really, really special. It's not the regular club experience. Let's go back to when you were a kid and when you first went clubbing. What was the first club that you ever went to?
I mean, honestly, I don't remember my first club because it's probably pretty underwhelming. It was a hip hop club or something. I just remember going clubbing with my friends. But I will tell you though, I remember that club that I was talking about, Government, and anyone from Toronto or Canada who's been around knows that place. That was like church. Everybody knew about it. Everybody went there. So that was like, that was a spot to be. It was hard to explain the energy because it had so many different rooms. Like, on a big night, they would open up all the rooms, and like I said, be 4,000 to 5,000 people. It was nuts. So that was the club. Like, I remember going in there, and I was like, "What is this massive place?" Right, and just being blown away, by the sheer everything that was going on, the sounds, the lights. So that really stuck with me, and I think that was a pretty big transformative experience.
Yeah, and was that the first club you ever played at as well, or was that a different one?
No, the first club I played at, I'm trying to... Okay, so with DJing, it's funny. I actually went, so again, I'm Canadian, but my roots are from Pakistan, so I took a gap year off. I'm trying to think, and I went from... Canada to Pakistan because I wanted to travel. This was between high school. I was like 17, 18 or something. And I was producing. So I didn't know anything about DJing at this time. And I met with some friends and some cousins down there. And funny enough, those are the guys. One of them, he runs a pretty big label, and they've done some nice things down over there. Shout out to Fake Shamans. They've been pretty good. So he actually we exchanged ideas because I was producing and I'd moved on to Fruity Loops, and he was like, "Oh, cool." He was just coming back from UK, so he was used to the whole fabric nightlife scene and all of that, and so he kind of taught me how to DJ, and so I remember doing one of my first events in Pakistan, believe it or not, years ago. But again, it was a very different atmosphere. Now the scene's changed a lot over there, and they're doing big raves, big parties, like really cool underground scene. So it was one of those. In terms of first clubs that I played, oh my god, I can't even remember. I think it was like a small bar club that I came back to. Oh man, I can't remember the name, but it was one of those where it's like,
Yeah, I know those experiences from way back when, of course. Yeah, but those were the starting points, because if you have 10 people, it's more difficult to entertain those 10 people somehow than a crowd of 200, 300, because, the vibe is so different. So yeah, that was about the first club experiences that you have. Along the way, I think you garner some insight in what you like about clubs and what clubs need to really excel or to perform well. As a party goer or as a DJ, what are your criteria for a club? What does a club need to be good?
So one of the big issues we have in Toronto is so we have a closing call of no more alcohol for 2 p.m. So that means, or 2 a.m. Sorry. So that means most clubs start shutting down around 3, 4. 4 p.m. 4 a.m. They kill it off. How the after hours scene usually starts to pick up, and one of the reasons why government was so amazing was because it was just open all night, and even if they didn't serve alcohol, they didn't care. You'd walk out at 9 a.m, sun was coming out, so that type of thing. But yeah. So I think the timing is key for me. I think accessibility. In terms of allowing people to come that want to come. I mean, the good thing with Toronto though is generally the people, like we do have after hours clubs and all that. So the people that come, it's the vibe is really good.
Yeah, and that's something that really is necessary as well for people to feel comfortable going out at any time in the day, and having a good time without worries, because the world's sometimes a worrisome place as it is. So if you go out, you need to forget all about all that stuff.
That's it, right? But I think having an environment where again you feel safe and just being able to dance, right? Like that's really what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. That's your goal as when you go clubbing, and that's your goal as a DJ as well. That you can give people that experience. I think. Is there a DJ or DJ performance that you saw that really blew your socks off? That you thought, well, man, this is incredible.
Sure, there's some pretty crazy big ones that I've been to, but it wasn't that. It was one year I remember when me and my friends this was shortly after university, I think, and I was living with my label manager in those days, early 20s. So, we're very close to the States, and there was some festival happening on the beach. So we were just, 4 of us got in a car, we drove, and it's about 7-8 hours from here. So we went over to New York, or one of the beaches over there. And I remember, I think Gareth Emery was, again, one of those DJs in those days. It was in his prime. But what was really cool was we were all on the beach and having a good time. And he came in on one of those boats, not the boats, the planes that land on the water.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that was really cool. I remember him. He got out there and they put a platform on the dock in the water for him. So that was a really cool, different type of venue and experience that stood out to me. But yeah, I mean, in terms of DJs and performers, man, like I've been with so many technically talented people and really, really big artists, that were my idols, like some of the, like over the course of my DJing journey. So it's been, a pleasure watching them.
Yeah. Um, can you name a couple that you think, well, this is well, yeah, this was high level.
I was really big into like the ethereal techno stuff that Steve Aoki was putting out. I remember. Uh, so they had an artist by the name of Blanca. I don't know if you're aware of her. She was pretty like very talented, and I remember us following her, and then all of a sudden there was a booking for her to come to China, and I was like, "What the heck?" And the girl that booked her, she was a really good friend of mine, Juliana. She's a DJ and producer as well. She used to run her own, but yeah. So she was like, "Hey man, like we're bringing her in." So I got to hang out with basically. She was like one of my idols at that time. Really really talented. Got to be with her in the booth. Another time would be Binary H. I think they're part of Afterlife now. They like so again. They were on top of the Great Wall with me, So I got to meet with them. We were basically standing in the stage next to each other while they're performing. So it was really cool watching some of these really international DJs play and perform and see how they prepare for their sets.
Yeah, because yeah, it can work inspiring, of course, to see other people how they do their stuff.
Yeah, like for example, another one of those again, South American, by the way, Brazil. I love their style and a lot of melodic techno has been coming out of there. There was another guy, Alex Justino, I remember that I met over the course of my years, and he was the first one when I think DJing with Ableton Live. Doing the whole live set was really coming out, and he blew my mind at that time. I was like, "Whoa, you could do this!" So he bought the push, and then he performed live with it, and that was a really changing experience as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been on still even on the main stage of like a big festival of Tomorrowland, like Paul Kalkbrenner who does his stuff. Like, is there because we've been talking about performances by other people that perhaps were inspiring and that got you all lit up? Is there one performance of yourself that you think, well, this was really top notch, even if I say it myself?
There was definitely a few. The first one that stands out in my mind is remember that club I was talking to you about in China called the Mansion.
Yeah.
So that was like one of my amazing clubs that I wanted to play at. Eventually networked and they were, so they gave me the slot which I wanted, which was a 4 a.m. slot because this club went all the way until sunrise, right? So
Yeah.
they had different rooms, and I had been out of practice, so like I hadn't DJed in about a year or 2 years at that point because. Again, just
Oh, really?
yeah, there was a gap, in my life, and I was just focused on production, trying to find myself. So, I mean, not that. I mean, okay, I'm going to take it back. I didn't DJ at a club. I didn't DJ at a club in 2 years. I was doing like smaller things. Yeah,
It's not you didn't mix at anything at the moment. Yeah.
yeah. So I was still doing music and we're having house parties and stuff like that, but just not at a club. Yeah. So I was quite nervous because again, this is a big club, and I mean, on a packed night, there's easily. At that place, 500-600, just at different levels, bottom stage, right? So I was like pretty nervous. I was like, oh man, what am I going to do? It's been a while, pacing back and forth. I went in, and I remember that set went nuts. It's like everybody. So there was different levels. I remember the bartenders came down from the second floor because they heard the music. That club emptied out, so that was one of the experiences. And the party went till like 6-7 in the morning, and I was like, okay, that was way better than I expected. Then there was a time when I was actually quite popular or got big in the circuit in China. So it was one of those where I was DJing almost every weekend. But this was an after hours club that used to be very big back in the days and kind of died down. So they booked me for like a closing set around again 4 or 5 hours. But I didn't have any, normally there's like 30 people in here now that were showing up. So I was like, whatever. But it turned out to be one of those random crazy nights where I went in. I was playing a great set. I don't know how the club got packed, and we didn't leave till like I was supposed to finish at 7. I kept playing till 10.
That's awesome, and if you can do that, yeah, it just gives you wings, If you have a crowd that just stays and stays and stays and doesn't want to go home and doesn't want to go home, and no, play another record, play another record. Yeah, that's and another record. Oh yeah, bring it on, baby. That's crazy, crazy. That's the thing, For us DJs, it's the reaction of the public, the interaction with the public that keeps you going because like people kind of sometimes underestimate how tiresome it can be to be performing for hours on end. because you always have to think, okay, what's going to be the next record? Do the mix well. If that all works out, and you have the good location and a good crowd, yeah, it's the best feeling in the world. I think really the best feeling.
A few weeks ago, we had the party that I was talking about. That actually turned out to be one of those sets as well. The whole night was perfect. I think there was about 8 acts. So it was from like 11 or p.m. to like 7 in the morning. And every single act was phenomenal. And we came on, I think, at 4 a.m. again. I love that slot, by the way. So we came on at 4 a.m. and I was doing a B2B set with my label manager, Sid, who I wanted to do forever. And this was perfect crowd. It was less 250 people on the beach just dancing away. And I got to give a shout out to this crowd, because I haven't seen people like this ever, because they stayed after the party was done to clean up the whole beach. And I was like, man, you guys are incredible. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, environmentally conscious as well. Not only great party goers, but great people all around. Yeah, you don't see that a lot, I think. Not at big parties like that. Yeah, that's awesome. That really is awesome. So you've performed in a lot of clubs. You've performed in China. You've performed in Toronto. Is there a club that you mentioned that there was a club that you were performing at weekly. Is that the club that you went to most as a party goer and as a DJ? And if that is the case, is there another one that it comes to mind that you performed really loads of times?
Yeah, there was another club called, it used to be called Footworks. Then it changed a number of times. Now it's called Coda. But that was like the alternative to the big club back in those days. And I think it was a much smaller venue, more intimate, so like maybe 200-300 people, maybe a little bit more, 4 or 5, I can't remember. But it was a small club. But I used to like performing there because, again, it was a more intimate vibe. And just, sometimes in those settings, it was just a nicer crowd. And just people, again, just came to dance. But yeah, Footworks, that was another really good one, I just remember.
Is there a club that is regarded, or in your regard, is at this moment the best in the world? And you talked about awesome clubs, because, the clubs that you mentioned and the description that you gave, I really wanted to be there. I really wanted to go to those clubs already. But is there another club, perhaps a club that you didn't go to yet, but that a lot of people talk about, that you think, well, this is considered to be the best in the world at this moment?
Well, Germany is known for their Berghain. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right.
Yeah, Berghain. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that's always piqued my interest. Something that I want to check out. Ibiza is another one. But yeah, I mean, I've been to a lot of those mega clubs. But yeah, I mean, if I had to, it would be one of those two places would be definitely my next destination.
Yeah. So if people are listening from Ibiza or from Berghain, you know where to find Hasan. He's really into your clubs, and perhaps a performance over there would be awesome. No, have you been performing in Europe? Because you mentioned like Toronto, you mentioned China. Where have you been performing around the world?
Unfortunately, there's been no Europe yet, but I do want to do a Europe tour at some point soon. So again, COVID happened, and I recently became a dad. So I mean, now my son's about 3 years old. So I wanted to give some time to him before that. But the game plan is hopefully in another year or two, when he's a little bit older, I do want to put together a Europe tour, hit up everywhere from Spain all the way up to you guys in Belgium. So,
well, we can work something out, perhaps. You never know, when in a couple of years, when you want to do that tour. And perhaps, Amsterdam, with the Amsterdam Dance Event, it's looming around, it's almost there.
It is, yes, it is. Are you guys going to the event, or?
Yeah, because it's really a great event, not only for the parties at night, but just to meet up with like-minded people, with people that can, perhaps you can discover new artists, or you can discover new insights in the business, because it's still a music business, of course.
Man, I'm so jealous of Europe right now, and Europeans. You guys, it's so easy to travel, Yeah.
It's true. I must admit that for us, and like for me, like Amsterdam is only an hour and a half away. So it's like, okay, let's go there and let's stay there for 5 days and meet up with great people, not only from Belgium, but from all over the world. And it's comparable, I guess, to Miami Music Conference. with that difference that really the business part and the meeting up part and the talking to each other part is much more important in Amsterdam than it is in Miami. Or so I'm told, because I must admit I've never been to Miami Music Conference, but that's on my bucket list still. So check it out and just meeting new people. There's a lot of people on my label, for instance, that I discovered at Amsterdam Dance Event. So it really helps the connection.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I know it's been on my bucket list. So who knows? Maybe 2024, right? For me.
Okay, well, let's make a note of that and let's make it happen. Perhaps should be great. Should really be great. For Hasan Ghazi, what's coming up next? Club gigs or festival gigs, or what are you up to performance-wise?
Absolutely. So performance-wise, I'm taking a small break right now. Probably the next biggest gig is going to be closer to New Year's. The main reason is because I've been working a lot on just the label side these days. So I'm also running Reckoning Records, and that is getting too big, and I need to kind of manage a lot of those aspects these days. So that's one of the reasons. The other reason is because we've been working on some stuff. We just launched a music video that my label was working on, and I wanted to showcase Pakistan actually within that. So I had a whole team, but we had like a year of production delay, so that came out. We have some really, really cool stuff lined up in the pipelines for the rest of the year for in terms of productions and stuff that we are working on. So we'll see. But you never know, like I might have some impromptu to gigs come up here and there, but as of right now, just want to wrap up with all the label stuff coming in.
Yeah. Because it takes a lot of time, It's not to be underestimated either. But I can imagine, because thank you so much for that. You did a takeover set for my mix show, Flash Forward Presents with Major K, which is broadcast on a couple of chains and is in the podcast app. You can find it in your podcast app as well. But you mentioned in your social media post that it has been a long time since you recorded a set like that.
It is, and again, when I recorded the set, I had two of my friends over, so it was nice, and Sid was over, my manager, and the new talent on my label, Kudus, who reached out to me, and as you know, it's been very, very good these days. So we've actually put out a collab EP that's coming out on Friday.
Okay.
On the label. So both of them were over. So we were just recording the set, but I was like, man, it's been a very long time since I just recorded a set. I mean, not playing it, but So it was good. It was good to thank you for the opportunity, because I've been just so busy every day these days working on different productions, So like I go into the studio and I'm like, okay, I can record a set, but then I get an idea. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. And the production part, because if you look throughout the year, there's a lot of stuff coming out, be it remixes, be it own material. Yeah, you're really, and you said you started out as a producer as well.
I did. I would actually consider myself probably a producer first and then a DJ second. I kind of got into DJing because I wanted to have the people be able to hear my music.
Yeah. And so what do you prefer doing? Doing remixes or making a track from scratch? Or doesn't it matter?
Both, to be honest. I enjoy both. I mean, right now, the remix is coming out. Katoff, I don't know if he's from UK. He's pretty good.
Yeah, really good. Yeah.
We actually, one of the best things I did was work on a collab track with him. It was called Way 2. That was something we did over the summer. Very different than what I normally produce, but again, it was just really good energies matched, and it came about. As far as production, I like doing both. I think remixing is a lot of fun too, because you can take the elements of an existing song and you've got something to work with. So usually I can make something faster. But with production, it's sometimes you're kind of painting from scratch, so you're like, oh, okay, it's going somewhere. Sometimes you work on it a lot and then you're like, oh, it's crap,
Yeah. And then it's kill your darling sometimes, because you have great ideas that you kind of stash into one track, but then you think, well, perhaps those are too many ideas in there, so let's scrap a couple of them and perhaps make it a whole new track with what's left.
That's it. One of the things that I like to do for production, and I've kind of forced myself to do this, is if I start a track, I'll tell myself that I have to finish it within the week. Oh. Otherwise, I find that I wouldn't say master it and have everything polished, but but the majority of it, because otherwise I find is that I lose the energy and the steam, or I get too double-minded and I start making like 10 alternate versions, and then I don't know where the track is gone.
Yeah. I can imagine that. And as a matter of fact, if you really spend some time in the studio, a track can be there really fast. You can leave it be for a couple of hours, get back to it, and have another take and have another view. But you just chisel away until it's just right. And perhaps that's a good approach to.
Yeah, I don't think my wife is too happy about that, but
Yeah, well, but it's something you do, man. It's totally you, and she knew that when she met you and married you. So.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Well, actually, funny enough, I met her when I was when I was DJing.
See, so she can't complain too much then, no?
No. I don't think she fully knew what she was getting into, but yeah.
Well, I as you have a kid now, I think it's all working out just fine. No, yeah. Hasan Ghazi, it has been such a pleasure to have you in Back to the Clubs. Yeah, hear from your experiences as a DJ and shedding some light on your producing skills and the way you approach things as well. So thank you so much for being here, and hope we can really meet up in 2024 when you're doing your European tour. I'm really game for that. So.
I'm looking forward to it, and it's been a pleasure. You take care.
Thank you, Hasan.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Lovely guest, Hasan Ghazi. Don't forget to subscribe to Back to the Clubs in your podcast app and find me as @officialmajork on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter and TikTok. Go get your Back to the Clubs logo t-shirt on dancemusicmerch.com and support the show. Next week in Back to the Clubs, Belgian producer and DJ Mike Push, who created one of my all-time favorite tracks, Universal Nation, a real Belgian anthem. Looking forward to that. And for now, see you next time and enjoy the sunshine. Bye-bye.
Back to the Clubs with Major K.